The starship Eminence of Dawn drifted through the cold silence of space, its long silver wings glowing faintly under a blue nebula. Inside the ship, life moved with strict order. Guards stood like statues. Technicians whispered and walked fast, afraid of the Aelith officers' cold eyes. The ship belonged to the Aelith Empire, an ancient civilization built on duty, rank, and control. Marcus Hale, the only human engineer on board, felt the difference every day. He came from a small shipyard near Mars and had been hired under a rare contract to maintain the Empire's armor systems. His workspace was deep inside the ship, in a clean but silent chamber lined with armor plates, tools, and holographic displays. Here, his hands and eyes were his only protection against mistakes. The Aelith expected perfection. Today, Marcus was working on the most important assignment of his life, the personal armor of Princess Zira, heir to the Aelith throne and commander of the ship's battle group. Her armor stood on a tall support frame in the center of the room, shining like liquid metal under the lights. It was not just a uniform. It was a symbol of power, designed to survive 100 battles. Marcus moved slowly, checking every joint, every microcircuit. He wore a plain gray jumpsuit with a small human flag on the sleeve. His brown hair was messy from long hours and his fingers were stained with microscopic lubricants. He hummed softly to himself, a habit from his days on Earth, but lowered his voice when guards passed by. Zira entered without a sound. She was taller than Marcus by a full head, with pale lavender skin and angular silver eyes. Her long crest of hair, deep blue like midnight water, was tied back with a band of gold. Even out of her armor, she looked dangerous, like a blade hidden in silk. 2 guards followed her, but she waved them away. "Wait outside," she said, her voice cool but precise. Marcus straightened up and gave a polite nod. "Your Highness, I've run diagnostics. The systems show stable, but I'm checking the frame for microstresses." "Proceed," Zira said. She crossed her arms and watched him. Her face showed no feeling. Most people, even high officers, would kneel or bow, but Marcus never did. He respected her rank, but not in the way her own people did. He just treated her like a client whose equipment had to be safe. For several minutes, only the sound of tools filled the room. Marcus worked with a scanner, tracing glowing lines over the armor's chest plate. His human eyes caught tiny irregularities where Aelith engineers had seen perfection. "Here," he murmured. "Too thin." He marked the area with a small tag. "You find faults where my engineers did not," Zira said. "I just follow the data and my gut," Marcus replied. "On Earth, we mix numbers with intuition. Machines talk to you if you listen." Zira tilted her head. She had heard of human intuition but had not seen it in action. To her, engineering was a rigid discipline, and Aelith engineers rarely questioned their manuals. Marcus's hands moved like a sculptor's, touching the armor with careful respect but no fear. She asked suddenly, "Do you know who wears this armor?" "Yes," Marcus said without looking up. "You. And do you know what happens to someone who fails me?" Her voice was sharper now, a test. He smiled faintly. "I know what could happen, but I still do my work the same way. Good work is good work." Her silver eyes narrowed. This human did not flinch, and it unsettled her more than open disrespect would have. Marcus continued. "This joint here," he said, pointing to a small plate near the shoulder. "It's under stress. If you take a hit from plasma, it could split. I recommend reinforcement." Zira stepped closer, peering at the spot. She had been wearing this armor for months. No one had mentioned weakness. "How can you see this?" she asked. "Experience," Marcus said. "I worked in old shipyards. We had to spot hairline fractures before they became disasters. You learn to see patterns." For a moment, Zira said nothing. Then, in a quieter tone, she asked, "Why do you care so much? You are under contract. You could do the minimum." Marcus set down his tool and looked at her. "Because someone's life is in this armor. Doesn't matter who. If it fails, someone gets hurt. I wouldn't want that." Zira blinked. The answer was simple but strange to her. In her culture, duty was tied to status. Aelith engineers cared because failure meant punishment. This human cared because failure meant pain for another living being. Her gaze softened just a little. "Most who serve me see a title, not a person," she said. "They look at me as they look at a statue or a weapon." "I see someone who has to trust their gear," Marcus said. "I don't know you, but I know armor." The princess was silent, studying his face. He had ordinary features by Aelith standards. Brown eyes, light stubble, a tired expression, yet there was no fear. She realized she had come to the room not only to inspect her armor but to inspect him. Outside, the ship's intercom announced a shift change. Guards moved in the hall. The eminence of dawn was preparing for a diplomatic arrival at the border of contested space. Marcus ignored the noise, focused on the armor's leg plates now. He bent low, adjusting a stabilizer rod. Sierra moved closer. "Human," she said softly. "Your name again?" "Marcus Hale," he said. "Hale," she repeated, tasting the sound. "You work as though this armor is sacred." "Not sacred," Marcus said. "Just important. Life is important." Zyra almost laughed, but she stopped herself. It was not mockery, but surprise. In her empire, life was measured by rank. In his words, life was just life. "On your world," she asked, "do you have leaders who wear armor?" "Not anymore," Marcus said. "But we used to. Knights, soldiers, astronauts. Different times. But no matter the rank, somebody still had to make sure their suits didn't fail." "Someone like me, do they thank you?" she asked. "Sometimes," Marcus said. "Sometimes they don't. Doesn't change the work." She considered this. Then she walked around the armor frame, examining the human's repairs. They were neat but not rigid, a mix of standard parts and tiny custom inserts. His style was improvisation, something Aelith engineers avoided but which often created better results. Marcus took a breath. "Your Highness, may I ask a question?" "You may," she said. "Why do you fight?" He asked quietly. "Your royalty. Couldn't you stay away from the front?" Her eyes glinted like metal. "Because the front is where decisions are made. Because I cannot lead from behind walls. And because," she paused, "I do not trust the old ways." Marcus nodded slowly. "Makes sense." This small exchange felt like a door opening. Zira realized he was not trying to flatter her. He was curious. He saw her as a person making choices. A faint alarm blinked on Marcus's scanner. He frowned and tapped the screen. "That's odd," he murmured. "What is it?" Zyra asked. "Micron-level energy spikes in your power matrix," he said. "Could be a glitch, could be interference. I'll need to run a deep scan later." "Do it," she said. He made a note on his tablet. It was probably nothing, but his gut told him to check again. Years in shipyards had taught him that small spikes could mean big problems. The princess turned to leave, then stopped. She looked back at Marcus. "Hale," she said softly. "Why do you treat me as if I matter?" Marcus blinked, surprised by the question. "Because you do," he said simply. "Everyone does." She held his gaze for a heartbeat, then nodded once and left the room, her long crest of hair brushing her shoulders like a dark wave. Marcus watched her go. He did not realize that his quiet way of working had begun to shift something in her, a small crack in the armor of tradition. He turned back to the suit. The scanner beeped again, faint but steady. He frowned, tightened a connector, and whispered to himself, "What are you hiding?" The door slid shut behind Zira. The chamber was silent except for the hum of power and the soft rhythm of Marcus's tools. Outside, the great ship drifted toward its next mission, unaware that a human and an alien princess had begun something that could change the Empire itself. The hum of the eminence of dawn filled the maintenance chamber like a slow heartbeat. Marcus Hale sat cross-legged on the floor with his tools spread out around him. The princess's armor stood on its frame in front of him, tall and silent. Soft blue lights traced its edges. Marcus had been staring at one section for nearly 10 minutes, scanning and rescanning because something did not fit the pattern. The energy spikes he had noticed the previous day had not gone away. They were stronger now, like tiny pulses under the surface. Marcus tapped his scanner again. The numbers flickered but stayed above normal. It was subtle, so subtle any Aelith engineer might call it noise. But his instincts whispered otherwise. He leaned closer to the armor's chest plate. "What are you hiding?" he murmured. He removed a micro panel and peered inside. The wiring was perfect on the surface, but a second layer showed irregular solder points as if someone had replaced parts without updating the system logs. He straightened up slowly. Sabotage, he thought, or a serious error. Either way, the princess could be in danger. The door hissed open. Marcus quickly slid the panel back in place and stood. Princess Zira entered, wearing a dark uniform, her silver eyes scanning the room. She had dismissed her guards again. "You are here early," she said. "I couldn't sleep," Marcus said honestly. "Wanted to run more checks." Zira stepped closer to the armor. Does it still whisper to you? She asked, her tone almost teasing. Marcus gave a small smile. Something like that. I found unusual energy spikes in your power matrix. Could be harmless, but it worries me. She raised one elegant brow. My engineers did not find such things, I know. The eminence of dawn drifted across the silent edge of the blue nebula, like a predator moving through water. On the bridge, officers spoke in clipped voices, their silver uniforms shining under pale lights. Rumors of the failed sabotage during the diplomatic ceremony had already begun to travel from deck to deck, though no one spoke openly. The ship's routine felt tight and brittle, as if everyone were holding their breath. In a small maintenance chamber deep in the ship's belly, Marcus Hale sat alone. He held the device he had pulled from beneath the dais, turning it over in his hands. It was a smooth black cube with faint Aelith script etched across one side. He had never seen this exact technology before, but he knew a remote access module when he saw one. This was proof, but also a death sentence if the wrong person caught him with it. Marcus placed the cube in a lead-lined case and sealed it. His heart thumped. He was an engineer, not a spy, yet he had stepped into a game far larger than himself. The door slid open. Marcus jumped, but it was only Princess Sira. She entered quickly and locked the door behind her. Her crest of blue hair shimmered faintly under the light. "Do you have it?" she asked. He nodded and held up the case. "Right here," she stepped closer. "Good, keep it hidden. I will handle the council." Marcus frowned. "We can't go to the council yet. We don't know who's behind it. We only know someone had access." "I have suspicions," Zira said, her silver eyes narrowing. "But suspicions are not enough. We need proof of the mind behind the hand." He nodded slowly. "Then we investigate. You?" she asked softly. "Why would you risk this?" Marcus hesitated. "Because someone tried to kill you. Because whoever it is might try again. And because—" He paused. "I don't like bullies." Zira almost smiled but did not. "You speak like one of my guards," she said. "Yet you are an engineer." "Engineers build things," Marcus said. "Sometimes they have to protect what they build." She studied him for a moment, then said, "Very well. You will have access to certain restricted sections. But be careful. If the Admiral suspects you, he will crush you." Marcus gave a small shrug. "Let him try." Later, Marcus moved through the ship's lower decks disguised in a plain worker's vest. He carried a toolkit, which made him invisible to most of the Aelith crew. The Empire's hierarchy was so rigid that few people noticed a maintenance man. He passed through corridors humming with machinery, their walls pulsing with soft blue conduits. He was searching for security records, the only way to trace who had planted the device. He found a quiet data node near the life support systems. Using a small human-made bypass chip, he slid into the system. A cascade of Aelith text and symbols filled his tablet. He worked quickly, tracing maintenance logs, authorization codes, and movement records around the time of the ceremony. His heart beat faster as a pattern formed. Each time the armor had been tampered with, the logs were cleared by the same code, a high-ranking admiral's clearance. The name attached was Admiral Cale Draven, commander of the ship's defense fleet and longtime critic of Zira's reforms. Marcus took a deep breath. This was it, but a single screenshot would not be enough. He needed a secure package of evidence. He copied everything to his tablet, encrypted it, and tucked the device under his vest. Footsteps echoed down the corridor. 2 Aelith guards walked past, speaking in low tones. Marcus kept his head down, pretending to adjust a pipe until they were gone. Only when the corridor was empty again did he breathe out. In her private quarters, Zira sat at a long desk covered with star charts and military orders. Her eyes scanned a report, but her mind drifted back to Marcus. She remembered his steady hands pulling the device from beneath the dais, risking himself without a thought. No officer in her command would have done that for her personally. They would have called a squad, filed a report, and waited. Marcus had acted. She also remembered his words about equality. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Not her advisors, not her guards, not her teachers. Even her own family had seen her as an instrument of policy. Marcus somehow saw her as a person. The door chimed. She pressed a button. Marcus entered quietly, glancing around. "I have something," he said, pulling out the tablet. She locked the door and lowered the room's security screens. "Show me." He set the tablet on the desk. The data flickered across the display. "Admiral Cale Draven," he said. "Clearance codes match every tamper event." Zira's eyes hardened. "Of course," she whispered. "He has opposed me since the first day of my command. He calls me weak for speaking to lower castes, for hiring humans, for seeking peace with our rivals." "Then he wants you out of the way," Marcus said softly. "And he's close enough to do it." She clenched her fists. "If I accuse him without proof, he will destroy me. If I stay silent, he will try again." Marcus said, "Then we gather more evidence." "We set a trap." She looked at him surprised. "You are bold for a mechanic." He smiled faintly. "Sometimes you have to build your own way out." That night, Marcus and Zira worked together in the maintenance bay. They designed a small hidden sensor for her armor, human-built using frequencies the Alith security would not detect. It would record any outside access attempts in real time and send the data to Marcus's private console. As they worked side by side, Zira asked, "Do you miss your world?" Marcus kept soldering. "Every day. But I came here to learn, to see the stars. Didn't think I'd end up in the middle of an assassination plot." She gave a low laugh, the first genuine laugh he had heard from her. "I did not think I would be working secretly with a human mechanic either." He smiled. "Life's funny like that." For a moment, the air between them felt less heavy. She watched his hands, the way he bent over the circuit like an artist. "On your Earth," she said, "people like you. Do they speak to leaders so freely?" "Some do," Marcus said. "Some get punished for it. But we try." She nodded slowly. "It feels strange, refreshing, dangerous." He looked up at her. "Dangerous isn't always bad." Their eyes met for a heartbeat. Then they both returned to their work. 2 days later, during a routine inspection, the hidden sensor recorded a new intrusion attempt on her armor. Marcus watched the signal appear on his console. This time he traced it live. The signal came from the Admiral's private quarters. He tapped a control and sent an alert to Zira. She was in her command chamber. Her eyes flicked to the small message on her wrist display. Without a word, she excused herself from a meeting and headed to the maintenance bay. Marcus met her there. "It's him," he said. "He's trying again. Look." She studied the screen. Her jaw tightened. "We have him," she said softly. "Not yet," Marcus warned. "We need to catch him in the act. If we confront him now, he'll claim it's a test or a mistake." She thought quickly. "Then we let him think he succeeded," she said. "We stage a failure." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "That's risky." She gave a thin smile. "Everything worth doing is." That evening, the Admiral summoned Zira to a private meeting in the strategy chamber. He spoke smoothly, his dark crest braided with gold, his eyes cold. "Your Highness," he said, "rumors of sabotage have reached me. It would be wise to increase your guard. Perhaps my own technicians should inspect your armor." Zira held his gaze. "Thank you, Admiral," she said politely. "But my armor is secure." He smiled, but it did not reach his eyes. "I hope so." As soon as she left, Marcus slipped into the Admiral's unused corridor access, using his bypass chip to plant a micro-recorder. He felt his pulse hammering. One wrong move and he would vanish into an airlock. The next day, Zira donned her armor for a combat drill. Unknown to the Admiral, Marcus had disabled only a harmless secondary system. From the outside, it looked like the entire armor had gone into emergency mode. Within minutes of the drill starting, the Admiral's signal came again. Stronger this time, trying to override her core systems. Marcus captured every code, every packet. Zira pretended to stumble, then recovered, playing the part of a princess saved by her armor's resilience. The Admiral watched from the viewing deck, his face blank, but Marcus saw a flicker of frustration. After the drill, Marcus and Zira met in the maintenance bay. He handed her the data chip. Everything he sent. His codes, his timing, his signature. She closed her fingers around it. "This is enough to bring to the council," she said. "Be careful," Marcus warned. "If he suspects, he'll act fast." She looked at him. "Then we must be faster." That night, Marcus lay awake in his small cabin. The ship hummed softly around him. He thought of the path he had taken, from a small shipyard on Mars to the heart of an alien empire, standing against an admiral with only his wits and tools. He wondered if he would live to see Earth again. He also thought of Zira, not the princess, but the person who had laughed softly at his jokes, who had trusted him with her private logs. He realized he would do anything to keep her alive, not because she was royalty, but because she had begun to believe in something better. In her quarters, Sira stood before a mirror wearing the newly modified armor. The hidden sensor pulsed faintly, her silent witness. She touched the chest plate where Marcus's human hands had reinforced the seams. For the first time in years, she felt not like a pawn but like a person shaping her own fate. The eminence of dawn hummed quietly as it cut through the dark vacuum of space. In the ship's maintenance bay, Marcus Hale worked under the soft glow of diagnostic lights. The micro-recorder had returned from Demiral's quarters with full data. ND. The eminence of dawn moved through space like a silent shadow. Despite the calm appearance, tension simmered throughout the ship. Officers whispered in corridors. Guards glanced nervously at each other. The suspension of Admiral Cale Draven had caused a ripple of uncertainty that no one could ignore. Marcus Hale moved quietly through the lower decks, his tools in hand, his mind alert. The human engineer had become more than a technician. He was now a vital part of Princess Zyra's defense, both of her life and her ideals. Zyra waited in the maintenance bay, her armor gleaming under the soft lights. She had requested Marcus's presence not just for technical support but as a trusted ally. They had become a team, united by respect and shared courage. Zyra's eyes met his. "The Council has suspended him," she said softly. "But that doesn't end the problem. Cale Draven has followers, loyalists who still move in shadows." Marcus nodded. "We need to be prepared for anything. Sabotage might come again or worse." She folded her arms. "Then we act first. We cannot wait for them to strike." Marcus studied her for a moment. The princess he had first met as a distant figure of authority was now someone who trusted him, who treated him as an equal in both strategy and judgment. He could see determination in her silver eyes. She would fight for her empire, not for herself alone, but for justice. Over the next several hours, they worked together to reinforce not only the armor, but the systems of the ship itself. Marcus guided the installation of advanced security protocols, hidden sensors, and backup energy networks. Every step of the way, Zyra observed, asking questions and learning the logic behind each human innovation. "It's fascinating," she said quietly, running her fingers along a small circuit. "Your methods, they are not like the Aelith. You rely on intuition, creativity, and experience. Yet they are precise, efficient." Marcus shrugged. "We call it improvisation. Sometimes the rules don't cover everything, so you have to think outside the pattern." She looked at him thoughtfully. "Perhaps that is why you saw the sabotage when my own engineers did not." "Maybe," Marcus said. "Or maybe humans just notice what matters." For the first time in months, Zyra felt a lightness in her chest, a sense of possibility. Marcus's presence reminded her that even in an empire built on hierarchy and fear, courage and integrity could still thrive. The next day, Zyra called a meeting with her trusted advisors. Most were hesitant, still cautious after Admiral Cale Draven's influence. Marcus stayed in the shadows, watching and listening. Zyra stood tall, her modified armor gleaming like a beacon. "We have evidence of sabotage," she said firmly. "We also know that loyalists of the former admiral may try to undermine our mission. We will not wait for them. We will act now." The room was silent. Some advisors nodded slowly, others shifted uncomfortably. Change was never easy in the Aelith Empire. Zyra's words carried a weight that surprised even her. The courage of one human had begun to influence the entire council. Marcus quietly monitored the ship's systems, ensuring the hidden sensors were ready to detect any unauthorized access. Even a minor breach would alert him immediately. Zyra turned to him briefly. "Are you ready?" He nodded. "Always." That evening the trap was set. Zyra moved through the ship's halls, her armor in silent readiness. Marcus monitored every signal from a secure control room. Loyalists of Admiral Cale Draven had been baited by a false report of a security breach. As expected, one of the hidden operatives attempted to access her armor remotely. The sensors Marcus had installed captured every command, every attempt in real time. The operatives were unaware that their actions were now evidence. Within minutes, Marcus relayed the data to Zyra via a secure channel. She studied the feed, her eyes narrowing. "Perfect," she whispered. "We have them." She moved quickly but with calm precision, confronting the operatives in a corridor far from public view. Her armor absorbed their minor attacks, enhanced by Marcus's modifications. She disarmed them, capturing their weapons without injury. The hidden sensors ensured that every step was recorded and transmitted to the council. Marcus watched from his control console, heart pounding. Zyra's skill and intelligence combined with his human innovations created a force stronger than either could achieve alone. After securing the operatives, Zyra returned to the council chamber. She presented the recorded evidence, showing the attempted sabotage, the chain of commands leading back to the Admiral's loyalists, and the danger posed to the Empire itself. The council members listened, some in disbelief, others in quiet approval. Finally, Zyra spoke with authority. The evidence is clear. Sabotage is real. Those who follow Admiral Kale Draven must be held accountable. His influence cannot threaten the safety and integrity of the Empire. We will no longer allow fear and tradition to suppress justice, the council murmured. One by one, votes were cast to investigate and discipline the loyalists. Kale Draven's remaining influence diminished rapidly. Zyra's courage, combined with Marcus's human insight, had broken the chain of hidden control. Later, in the maintenance bay, Zyra removed her armor and sat quietly. Marcus approached with a small cup of water. "You did it," he said softly. She smiled faintly, tired but triumphant. "We did it," she corrected. "I could not have exposed them without your help." Marcus shook his head. "I just provided tools. You made the decisions." She looked at him thoughtfully. "And yet, your presence changed the outcome. You see things differently. You treat people as if they matter, not because of their rank but because of who they are. That perspective, it saved me, and it saved this empire from hidden threats." Marcus felt a warmth in his chest he had not known before. He had come to the Aelith Empire to repair armor, not to change the course of an empire. Yet here he was, recognized not as a mere mechanic, but as a trusted partner in leadership. Zyra continued, "I realize now that power is not only about commands or weapons. True strength lies in courage, fairness, and trust. You have reminded me of that, Marcus. You have reminded me what it means to be human, to value every life." He gave a small smile. "And you have reminded me what it means to fight for something greater than yourself." The days that followed were filled with restructuring. Loyalists were reassigned, their influence diminished. The council began to adopt some of Zyra's reforms, small steps toward greater equality, inspired in part by human values Marcus had introduced. Marcus continued his work as chief engineer, overseeing security, armor, and ship systems, but now he had a voice in decisions, a seat alongside Zyra in planning sessions. The human engineer who had once been invisible had become central to the ship's operation and its moral compass. Zyra, too, grew more confident. She moved through the Empire's halls not as a pawn, but as a leader who respected and empowered others. Her relationship with Marcus remained a source of strength, a quiet reminder that courage and integrity could cross species, cultures, and traditions. One evening, they worked late in the maintenance bay. Marcus was adjusting the final sensors in her armor, making small tweaks to improve comfort and performance. Zyra observed, standing close, her gaze thoughtful. "Marcus," she said softly, "you've changed more than just the armor. You've changed me." He looked up surprised. "Me?" "Yes," she said. "I see people differently now. I value their lives, their choices, their voices. Your perspective, it has opened my eyes." He smiled faintly. "Then I've done more than fix armor." She placed a hand lightly on the shoulder plate. "You've done more than I could have imagined." They stood in silence for a moment, listening to the hum of the ship. Outside, the stars glimmered like distant candles. The eminence of dawn carried them forward not just through space, but into a future shaped by courage, trust, and respect. For Marcus, the journey had begun as a simple task: repair a princess's armor. Now it had become something far greater, a mission to help reshape an empire, to protect life, and to prove that one human could make a difference in the universe. Zyra finally removed her hand and straightened. "Tomorrow we begin the next step," she said. "We cannot stop here. The empire needs change, and we will lead it, together." Marcus nodded, his heart steady. "Together," he said, and in the quiet hum of the ship, amid the cold stars, a human and an alien princess stood side by side, ready to face the unknown, their bond unbroken, their courage unwavering. The eminence of dawn glided through the inky blackness of space, its engines leaving faint trails of light like whispers across the void. For weeks, the ship had been a hive of tension and change. The loyalists of Admiral Kale Draven were either removed or reassigned, The council had begun to implement reforms, and the empire itself seemed on the verge of a transformation. But for Marcus Hale and Princess Zira, the work was not yet done. In the maintenance bay, Marcus carefully adjusted the final calibration of her armor. Tiny sensors hidden by human ingenuity glimmered faintly in the soft lights. They were ready for any threat, any sabotage, any danger that might arise. Marcus wiped a smear of grease from his hands and looked at Zira. "You're ready," he said simply. She nodded, her silver eyes reflecting the glow of the instruments. "Yes, thanks to you, we are stronger than before. But the Empire still needs guidance. I cannot do this alone." "You won't," Marcus said. "You have me." And the rest of the council is beginning to see things differently. Slowly, change is coming. Zira studied him.